Hey everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new here. So today's case is a very recent one that happened just a month ago actually, and the reason why I've chosen this right now to do is because there's a big search underway and a lot of people are looking for Linda, and I'm hoping that by bringing more exposure to the case that we can hopefully bring her home to her friends and family and give them the answers that they desperately need. So as always, I'm going to get into the usual disclaimer. So I'm reporting on very public news that anyone has access to. All of the opinions stated are my own unless I say otherwise, and all of the sources that I used are listed down below. Now let's get into it. So before I get into the timeline and the details of the case, I thought it was really important that I give you guys a little bit of background on the Amish community in Lancaster, which is where Linda is from. So I did some research about this specific Amish community, and I found some really interesting information that might give you some background on Linda's upbringing and what possible mindset she was in the day she disappeared. So going into this case, I knew practically nothing about the Amish community, but after doing research, I found out that the community is very close-knit and relies a lot on each other. So they farm their own food. Pretty much everything that they eat is farmed themselves, I believe. I couldn't find if they get food from the outside world, but either way, they have very few influences from the outside world, as well as no technology, and they believe that technology is kind of temptation and that it could lead them further away from God, which is why they stray away from this. So now with that brief explanation of the Amish community and kind of just going through their values and what their lives are like, we can get into Linda and her background. So Linda is 18 years old and lives in Birmingham, Pennsylvania. She's a part of the Amish community there and has been her entire life. Linda is described as being very kind and happy and really close with her family. Her job is to tutor students who have learning disabilities, so that shows how big of a heart Linda has. She also seemed to be very happy with her Amish lifestyle and expressed no desire to leave it. Her friends and family say that she wouldn't have left without letting anyone know because she cares about other people too much. I wish I could have found more about Linda and her personality, but unfortunately that's all I could find. So let's get into the day of her disappearance. So Linda disappeared on June 21st of this year, which is Father's Day. That morning at 9 a.m. she attended a church service on Stumpton Road at a farmhouse. When the church service ended at around noon, Linda and her friend Lillian Ebersol volunteered to wash dishes. So they were there washing dishes and chatting amongst each other for about half an hour, and Linda actually told Lillian that she was planning on going home before their youth group, which would start at 2 p.m. that same day, so that she could change out of her formal church clothes into something more casual for the day. Linda finished with the dishes at around 12:30 p.m. and headed off home with her shoes in her hand. So she headed off on foot instead of taking a buggy like some kids did, because it was only a mile away or 19 minutes, so not a very long walk. There was a quicker way to get home, however, Linda didn't go that way usually because it was a bit treacherous. There was a creek you would have to go through, and that did make it a bit more dangerous, so Linda didn't usually do that route, so she traveled along Beechdale Road to get back home. At 12:42 p.m., so just shortly after Linda had left her church service, a red Kia Rio is seen pulling off on the 500 block of Beechdale Road. Shortly after this, a man is seen getting out of this car and crossing the street to where Linda was. Some words are exchanged, and just a few seconds later, Linda follows this man and ends up getting back into his car and they pull away. It's important to note that we do know that this happened because there was footage on a nearby building, a security camera, that captured all of this, and the FBI has technology that can enhance this kind of video, and they're working with the local police, so they were able to do so in this case, and they were able to find a sticker on the back of this Kia Rio that said LCM, which would later come into play because it really was identifiable and helped them find the car that was in this footage. Now let's get back to the timeline of the day. So at 1:30 p.m. that same day, Sarah and Isaac Stoltzfoos, so the same last name as Linda, but they're not related, saw something very strange. So the couple is also Amish, and they claim to have seen an Amish woman in the passenger side of a car matching the description from the surveillance footage, and they waved to this woman, which is an Amish tradition to wave to one another, and she didn't wave back, which they found very strange. These two weren't the only ones who claimed to have seen Linda that day. So another Amish community member named Gideon King III claims to have seen a woman matching Linda's description in the passenger seat of a car that was red or orangish that really matched the description on the surveillance footage. He remembers this because he found it really weird because Amish women are not supposed to wear their church clothes while riding in the car, and this woman was doing so. So that day and night, as I said earlier, Linda was supposed to go to youth group for her church. However, she never made it, and her friends pretty much just assumed she was sick. After all, she didn't have a cell phone to communicate with them, so there was really no way of knowing if she was sick or not, and they figured that something had just come up and she decided not to go. However, alarm bells went off that night after Linda didn't come home from youth group. So it typically ended at around 11 p.m. and when she didn't arrive, at first her parents weren't too concerned, but as the hours ticked on, they got more and more worried and they called the police at 2 a.m. to file a missing persons report. They also looked in her room to see if she had come home that day to change after church, and when they didn't find her formal church clothes in her room, they knew that she hadn't made it home that day at all and were very worried. This case is so heartbreaking because no one knew that Linda was missing the first few hours after her disappearance, which are the most crucial in a missing persons case. I just wish someone had known that she wasn't where she was supposed to be, but you know, there was no way to know. Her friends thought she was home and her family thought she was at church, and there was unfortunately no reason to think otherwise. So as of now, even though new information is coming out every day on this case, we don't know what happened to Linda after she got in that car and they drove away. However, the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office has said that they believe that she met with foul play and meant harm. However, as I said earlier in the video, the FBI were able to enhance the video footage of the car and traced it down to their suspect who is now in custody. His name is Justo Smoker. So now I'm going to give you guys some background on the man who is accused of abducting Linda. So Justo Smoker is 34 years old and lives in Paradise Township. He grew up in the Dominican Republic speaking Spanish, but had a really hard childhood and was adopted into America at age 7 by an Amish family. Now, his family that he was adopted into is actually third cousins with Linda Stoltzfoos' family, who is the girl who he abducted, allegedly. But they did not know each other. They had never met, they had never spoken. I just saw that reported in a source that I'll link down below that they are third cousins, so I thought I'd include that. So growing up, Justo was a very average student, but he was the star of his high school's wrestling team and got a lot of praise from that. However, things went downhill very quickly, and he has a lengthy criminal record and was actually just released from prison last year. Justo went to jail for robbing 4 businesses with a BB gun along with his brother Victor. So this is a very serious offense, and he was facing a long jail sentence. However, the judge on this case, Judge Maiden Spencer, took pity on him and believed that he deserved a second chance to be rehabilitated, so he actually only sentenced him to 12.5 years out of the potential life in prison that he could have faced. Justo served his time in prison without anything notable happening, and once released, he got a job at Dutchland Inc., which is a water treatment supply company. This is the same place he was working at the time of Linda's abduction. So now with some background on Justo and his criminal record, we can get back into the timeline of the case. So on June 23rd, which was 2 days after Linda disappeared, Justo was seen snooping around a building on Harvest Drive in Bronx. So the owner of the building actually saw him and saw his car and called the police and reported it in. The police got there in time to see the car and match it with the car they had seen in the surveillance footage and that it was Justo's car, but he drove away before they could speak to him. However, he was seen doing very suspicious activity at this building. He was looking in the windows, he was walking around, and just overall weird behavior. On July 8th, that's when the police got back the results of the enhanced footage and found out that the name of the person who owned the vehicle in the footage was named Justo Smoker. So they traced him to his place of work at Dutchland Inc., which I said he worked at, and they were able to match him to this car. However, they didn't question him that day. They actually ended up speaking to him the next day on the 9th, and they asked him if he knew Linda. He adamantly denied it, said he didn't know her, he'd never seen her, and he had no involvement in her disappearance. July 10th, a couple big breaks happened in this case. So the first big break is that a couple items of Linda's clothing were found behind that same building in Bronx on Harvest Drive where Justo Smoker was seen snooping around earlier on the 23rd. In a remote and wooded area behind this business, Linda's stockings and her bra that she was wearing on the day of her disappearance were found in a 6 to 8 inch hole under the ground, so not too deep. The strange thing about this recovered stuff is that the stockings were found in a knot, which I find to be really strange. It could indicate that possibly her stockings were used as a restraint, I was thinking, but that hasn't been confirmed. It's mere speculation on my part. Another strange thing to consider is that the spot where Linda's clothing was retrieved is only 3 miles from the spot where she disappeared, so it's very close to the crime scene. I find it very strange that someone would dispose of evidence so close to the scene of the crime, but that's just me. The second big break that happened in the case on July 10th was that Justo Smoker was arrested on felony kidnapping charge and misdemeanor false imprisonment charge, and he is now being held without bail. What I find interesting about these charges is that he is not being charged with harming Linda, which gives me hope that the police know something and that she could still be alive somewhere. I also find it important to note that the FBI is involved in this case and has been since early on. They're offering a $10,000 reward for any information that results in finding Linda, and I really hope that this turns up some new leads and inspires people to come forward. As for what the police have done since Linda disappeared, there have been numerous searches in the area since the days following her disappearance. Currently, the searches are focused on the Welsh Mountain area, but they have been everywhere from where they found the clothing to anywhere near where she disappeared, and I found that a lot of community members have been involved in taking part in these searches and helping to hopefully find Linda. Right now, the main focus of investigators seems to be searching and putting all their efforts towards that to hopefully find Linda or any evidence that could lead to her. They're also concerned with the whereabouts of Justo following the days of Linda's disappearance, as well as the whereabouts of his car. Now, I've seen online that there was a fire following Linda's disappearance at Justo's apartment complex. I haven't seen this confirmed in any news sources, so I'm just putting this out there. I saw it on Web Sleuths that there was a fire and a car burned down. However, the police do have Justo's car currently in their possession, so this was another car. It said that he lives with his girlfriend and it was her car. However, you never know. He could have, had access to this car, allegedly, and could have potentially done something with it. So that is concerning if it's true. From the little information that I've seen, it seems like Justo isn't talking and isn't giving any more information. So if we find out anything about his alleged involvement, it's gonna have to be from someone close to him who decides to step up and do the right thing. I'm really hoping that there's a positive resolution to this case. My heart breaks for this girl. She seems like such a kind person, and I really hope that she's brought home to her family soon. But that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you guys get notifications every time I upload. Thanks again, guys. Bye.